peasants versus the elite.
Yes.
Something I think people should be wary of is the term Gen Z leader. Just because someone is Gen Z does not make them a good leader. I think we should still uphold the standards of good leadership regardless of the age group.
Amazing.
Because we've seen that just because you're young does not mean you have the right approach to being a good leader, right? So just because someone is in this age group and, you know, they're saying all the right things, they have very good, you know, posture, demeanor, whatever.
Oratory skills.
Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about anyone specific.
Really?
Yeah.
Not everyone is meant to be a leader, so we should still.
You're talking about.
So, because you have to counterbalance, because whatever the Tumbis and allies are doing is having an impact, you know, because most people are gonna read.
So like the sponsored hashtags.
Yes. So people. So you have to find a counterweight and.
Can we sponsor?
But
the
count. We don't need to sponsor it, guys, because I'm constantly like checking on Twitter whenever there's a protest. It's organic. It doesn't need to be sponsored.
So now it has to go beyond organic, because these other guys, they are there daily. You cannot wait for when an event happens. These other guys, they're there daily.
24/7.
Reflecting back briefly on how there was so much momentum after the revolt, and then it peaked, but then it collapsed.
Handshake.
Yeah. Was that what exactly, you know, like was going on, especially within, you know, like chatter amongst Gen Z? What is it that made that movement, which had moved so fast, just spectacularly collapse?
I'm gonna mention something before I answer you that
Sure.
I wanted to say, so I don't lose it in my mind.
Yes.
It was about the idea, you know, peasants versus the elite.
Yes.
Something I think people should be wary of is the term Gen Z leader. Just because someone is Gen Z does not make them a good leader. I think we should still uphold the standards of good leadership regardless of the age group.
Amazing.
Because we've seen that just because you're young does not mean you have the right approach to being a good leader, right? So just because someone is in this age group and, you know, they're saying all the right things, they have very good, you know, posture, demeanor, whatever.
Oratory skills.
I'm not talking about anyone specific.
Really?
Yeah.
Not everyone is meant to be a leader, so we should still uphold the same standards of what a good leader means, regardless. Because I know with the coming election, it's gonna be. I'm honestly kind of sick of hearing the word Gen Zs. I'm not gonna lie, but I know with the coming elections, it's gonna be we want Gen Z. But is the Gen Z a good Gen Z? That's the question that we should ask. Just because we want young leaders doesn't mean we want all the leaders.
Wow.
So that's an interesting point you brought, because like even our generation, when millennials were younger, there was also that talk that this is the tribalized generation, they're gonna come and change everything. But I think unfortunately what happened with our generation is that there was no divorce from the previous political formations. So the people who benefited were the people who shouted the loudest for the previous political formations, and they were the worst
Same
of the
kind
worst.
of people, same person, you're just younger.
Yes, and I have no problems mentioning names. Kipchumba Murkomen, Kiarie, Sakaja, you know, like yes, because these are the people who are they are actually very upright millennials who would have done a very amazing job, but then they were not able to penetrate the political systems, which is the other thing that I think I was having a conversation with you. The good people need to learn politics, because I think that's part of the problem, whereby mtu anajiona, oh, you know, like this is a muddy affair.
I don't want to get that.
I don't want to get that.
Yeah.
I don't want to get involved. So when a lot of people do that, then it's only the crazies, are the ones, you know, the swindlers.
My friend says that politics is a full contact sport.
Yes.
Full.
Yeah.
So you cannot be Mr. Nice Guy.
You cannot go play rugby and expect not to get tackled.
Lazima
Yeah.
you kanyanga somebody.
Yeah. Sheila has
But
something
do
to
you
say.
think we are normalizing violence within politics?
No, by a
no.
contact sport.
Not violence.
We're not
violence.
normalizing violence. By a contact sport,
Politics is dirty.
we mean
You have to be ready to get dirty.
by even using the rugby analogy, there's a legal tackle and an illegal tackle.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to go do legal tackles.
And not to be discouraged if you
we are not saying you go steal money. We are not saying you do, you go kill or do these other things that politicians do. But you see, like, for example, one of the things that a lot of these politicians are doing is getting paying bloggers.
Yeah.
Why can't the good politicians also pay good bloggers? Because if that tool is powerful, why can't we start paying? There's nothing wrong with writing. If you're writing, there's nothing
But it
wrong.
depends on what people are writing.
Michelle,
But that's what I'm saying.
It
but
doesn't
the
matter.
bad
But that's
people
what
are
I'm saying.
writing bad stuff. We need good people
But
to
that's
write
why
good
you need
things.
someone to counter Dennis Itumbi. You cannot be letting Dennis Itumbi come with his systemia facts, and then there's no one on this other side. And there's an example. If you go check a page, like on TikTok or X, called Occupy Democrats, that is good blogging. It's like there's crazies on the right, but guess what? There's also good blogging. So it's like trying to find a legal way of doing it. If it's money that's required, is there a legal way of trying to raise money to support these candidates? We actually have a template of a candidate who's won without doing all these crazy things, and his name is Okia Omtata. He was able to win in an environment where ODM had poured so much money, UD had poured so much money, but he was still able to win. We need to figure
Yeah.
out
Was he in the
Michelle-
coalition?
what exactly is it that they did.
Michelle Obama, they had come out. When they go low, or is it when they go high? No, when
When
we
they
go low,
we go
we go
high.
high.
Yeah, because
How did that? How was that successful in 2016?
but let me hear Sheila's. Let me hear
2020,
Sheila's.
sorry.
Let me hear
I
Sheila's
think
point.
as long as it's not getting outside of the boundaries of, like, there's that mudslinging that people do where they come after, like, your family, or they come after you for things that are irrelevant
Yeah.
from the politics. Like, especially like when you see women who run for office, a lot of women have. If you I've talked to women who've actually run for
Unfortunately.
office in Kenya, and if you talk to them about the things that they experience running for, it's horrendous, to be honest. So
and
yeah.
No, Mika, hold on.
Sheila Maliza, and then we're gonna come to
Yeah,
you.
so if we are playing within the boundaries of, I'm going to fact check you when you lie about me, of, we'll put out polls, we'll pay bloggers to make sure a certain information is out, that's fine. But when
That's
it
what
comes
we're
to,
talking
like,
about.
insulting people,
No.
No,
No,
we're saying
we are talking about.
because you have to counterbalance, because whatever the Itumbis and the lies are doing is having an impact. Because most people are gonna read.
so like
they're
the
gonna read
sponsored hashtags.
Yes.
Yeah.
So people. So you have to find a counterweight and.
Can
and,
we
and-
sponsor
and-
But
But
Yeah.
the
must
count,
go hashtag.
we don't need to sponsor it, guys, because I'm constantly, like, checking on
Why
Twitter
not?
whenever there's a protest. It's organic. It doesn't need to be sponsored.
So now it has to go beyond organic, because these other guys, they are there daily. You cannot wait for when an event happens. These other guys, they're there daily.
24/7.
Remember during the when the war in Gaza, there's a lot of war going on in the world now. Israel is attacking Iran, but that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Israel, you mean?
There was a lot of propaganda that Israel was trying to throw out, and that's when people on this other side land, you have to pay people to counterbalance what they're doing. If you don't, you have to go overwhelm the algorithm with what they're doing, so that the information that people are getting, because we're in an algorithm controlled world. So if we don't figure out a way of giving support to the good people, because if you do the thing of, let me go do a good manifesto, and then let me go make a speech about policy, political reality is
Even your fans and followers will
get
be like,
smoked out.
Connie, this person is
Yeah.
not saying what this person is saying.
you'll get
I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I'm saying a lot of that negative stuff, the Itumbis
But
of this
then-
world, are being countered organically.
but then let me tell you something
that's-
about politics.
yes.
Check what's trending on Twitter right
Yeah.
now. Check what's. It's going to be a mix of government and Kenyans.
If you want to run for politics, there are two things you have to be. You have to accept. Number one is that no matter all the good that you will ever come to do as a politician, you will be remembered for that one bad thing that was said about you.
Like Kaluma.
It might be true, it may not be true, but that is what you will be remembered. Once you reconcile with that fact, you'll be fine.
It's a thankless profession.
Number two, in politics, if you want to be a good politician, you have to be able to not get offended by every lie that is thrown around you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to have a tough skin.
So insults are gonna be there. It's a way of intimidation. Let me get you out of your character. Let me insult you. Get out of your character. You lose a debate. I win it. I might insult you and the moderator say, oh, don't do that. That's bad, right? But then I've unnerved you and you can't debate me. I beat you on that debate. I gain points.
Yeah,
and I show
but-
people he's weak. And so, and that's the thing. We cannot, the one thing that we have to separate from life is that we live in a moral world, that we are politically correct on everything. It will never happen. I'm not telling people to go outside there and just be disrespectful and insult people, but do understand that there's somebody out there who's looking at you and they cannot, for their own purpose in life, come to understand how miserable their life is and look at you and they see how happy you are. And the only way they want to do is put in that misery with them, and they will come for you in ways that are not fair.
Okay.
So as a politician, there are some things you have to realize it is. Obama was told he married a man. He was being called a monkey. He's been called everything. He never once lost his cool. You could see him getting pissed off, but you never saw him losing his cool.
I think I get what you're saying, but is there room to be realistic and say this is the world in which we live in today, but we don't want to live like this forever? So yes, I'm gonna have tough skin, I'm gonna have thick skin. If you say 1, 2, 3 about me, it's not going to affect me in such a dire way, but we also can't be creating the conditions and the environment that will allow for this thing to keep happening.
So-
Again, talk to the women who run for office in Kenya. It's a different
Unfortunately,
ballgame.
Yeah.
and then I'm saying this because I'm saying this because I have actually worked in campaigns here, Kenya, and I understand what happened in those campaigns. And that is where I'm telling you, the reason it's like that, it's because how it's been like politics hasn't started right now. Politics started way back in time before we came here. It's always been a dirty game. It's always been a popularity contest of who's going to make more people like them than the other person.
Okay.
So
All
there's
right.
always going to be that defamation and those things. I agree with you. We are not supposed to have that environment. But if we want to tell people to discuss, if we want to be active in politics, if we want to be able to make a difference in politics, because right now, if you start doing civil education among your peers, utatukanwa na wengine. Kama hiyo itakufanya pull back, and I get you, that's you. If it gets to you, that's you, sawa, pole. I really hope nobody does that to you. But then and that is where it comes back to my first point. Whatever good you've done, there are people who won't appreciate it. Be satisfied with the good. Mwenye yuko satisfied naye ni sawa, kwa sababu at some point
Okay.
Can I say
Okay.
something?
Aya, so let's come to
So,
Joy back in
I
studio.
do agree with Sheila, and I think we're talking about different things. I think what he's saying is, as a leader, expect criticism, which I think is something you can't control if you're a public figure. But I think what Sheila is talking about is how difficult the system is to get to that pinnacle of power as president. The amount of things that you have done for that is something some people cannot stomach. It's not just a comment. It's not just people have insulted me, now I'm going to quit. It's it's sexual abuse, it's sexual
Yes.
assault,
Yep.
it's murder. You hear, oh, this MP was murdered. You never, it could be politically, most likely politically, it's not small things that we're talking about, right? It is major infringements of human rights for you to be able to get to the pinnacle of power. And personally, if someone told me for you to be president, let's assume I'm a good person, right? Or anyone here is a good person. I say I want to be president. And I thought, okay, you have to be part of this genocide, do these a few things, kill these children, and then you'll be president. And then finally, when you're at the top, you'll be a good person. Then you can enact. I'm signing out, right? I mean, there are things we need to work on as a country that make politics such a disgusting experience, both for men, but even more especially for women.
Absolutely. And